Welcome back to another episode of JV Starters Playoff Edition. This is also our end of the season recap where we get to check on our hot takes and early season picks. What do you think, Will? How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited. It's been a while, but I'm ready to predict the playoffs. I'm ready to take a look back, see how wrong I was. Take a look back, see how right you were. I think it's gonna be a good time.
I think you're giving me way too much credit.
We'll see.
I I am prepared to show you where I was definitely wrong on a few things too, but
All
I
right.
will
All
take
right.
some victory laps
All
when I
right.
am right.
All right.
All right, let's go in the Wayback Machine here. Back to our very first podcast. We
Let's do it.
talked about the quarterbacks that were drafted in this year's draft. You were very high on one particular guy, and I was not. You said that Caleb Williams was going to be amazing. He's kind of this ready-made guy. I mean, he's there. He's him. You may have said he's him.
I probably did. I
How do
probably
you
did.
feel about that right now? At the end of the season, not just his numbers, we also have to talk about his performance because I've got some data that we can compare here.
Um. Um. I think if I did say that he was ready-made, obviously that's not correct.
That's
It was very.
paraphrased, by the way. I don't think you used that phrase, but that
I'm
was
sure
the
that's what I.
yeah.
I'm sure that's what I implied. Obviously I don't think that's correct. Um. And the team suffered for sure. I watched the majority of the Bears games, um, and was overall not impressed. Um, however, I do not think it was a stretch, and I will stand by the fact that he will still be very, 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 very good. I think that if the individual stats showed us anything, it's that he is not in nearly as bad of a spot as past number one overall pick quarterback
Oh
busts have
yeah.
been. I mean, I think he threw what, six interceptions, nine interceptions, I think, which being below 10 when you play that style of football, sort of the gunslinging, like, sort of rash decision making, the fact that he threw under 10 picks, I think is a good sign. 3,600 or so change yards, maybe not as many touchdowns as you would have liked to see. I still think the potential's there. I still think he's the Bears' long-term solution at quarterback. I just think maybe I was a little bit too excited about what the first year or two would bring, and I definitely overrated him going into the season for sure.
Okay. Now I'll own that I underrated him. I said he'd be terrible, and he wasn't terrible. But what I'll stand by right now, because obviously we can't see long term. But what
Yep.
I will say is this: I remember someone did a side by side, and they put up the stats for Jaden Daniels next to Caleb Williams. They put people call him a bust, and he's a prodigy, the rookie of the year, or whatever.
Yep.
And the numbers were not very different. In fact, Caleb Williams had fewer interceptions than Jaden Daniels did.
Hmm.
Their yardage was about the same. Daniels definitely had more touchdowns. Um, but when you look at it that way, it's easy to say this is where do you remember that the ESPN show where they called it the numbers don't lie? And of course,
Uh-huh.
the whole point of the show was to show you how the numbers are can be manipulated and
Right.
wrong.
Right. Right.
So the one of the things that I'd say about him is that here you go. I'm pulling him up here. I want to make sure I had his actual numbers. But Caleb Williams, his numbers I think make him look a little bit better than he was. I'm not saying he's as bad as maybe I made him out to be, but when you look at that, the things that I did watch in his game is where he struggled. Some of these yards, and this is what I don't know. You watch the games. How many of those yards did he pick up in garbage time?
Hmm.
I don't know the answer to this, and you might kind of go, oh, you know what, he did have that 80-yard drive when they were down by three touchdowns, right? So some of those numbers he may have made up when they weren't critical, and I think that here's where I would make the big distinction between what Jaden Daniels did this year, because they both came from what was bad teams last year. I
Oh
think the
yeah.
Bears were worse, but they were both bad teams. It's not as though Jaden Daniels went to a playoff team or something. Um, they both went to bad situations, bad teams. That's why they were number one and two picks. But it seems like Jaden Daniels was less frustrated and flustered. Like he didn't show that frustration, and I feel like he was cooler in those critical moments, like red zone. I think I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think that the results bear out that it's kind of like the way that the Vikings and the Lions played this weekend. The Vikings could move the ball all up and down the field, couldn't get in the end zone.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you can get these huge inflated numbers. You go, oh, I got 400 yards passing and 0 touchdowns, something like that. And so that's where I think that, at least in his rookie year, the numbers lie a little bit because I think some of those Caleb numbers weren't in those critical moments. They weren't at the critical times. And so it's not all on him. They definitely have problems. They got to get the offensive line fixed. The defense has problems. I mean, in their head-to-head matchup, I don't hold it against Caleb Williams that they gave up a Hail Mary. That's not his fault. What is his fault is that they only got, was it 15 points?
I think so.
Like, that is on him, right? So you can go, hey, he got him ahead. Look how long it took him to get a touchdown. And yes, they were only up enough that they still lost to Hail Mary. So I'm not going to take, you can take your victory lap. I think he did well. I just think that if we only do those blind comparisons, I think
Oh yeah.
you make a little bit of an inflated picture of who he was.
Yeah. I mean, I think the stat padding argument, the empty stats at the end of games, I think it's valid. Obviously, I don't think that stats accumulated when a game is unwinnable are valuable. But I tend not to put too much emphasis on them as much, only because every single quarterback does it to some extent. Every single time a team wins a game by a lot, their quarterback, Josh Allen practically made his name this season off of stat padding. So
to the same
I don't know.
extent, Saquon Barkley got 2,000 yards rushing this season, and he also set the all-time record for the most yards rushed in the second half.
Yeah.
Why? Why were his second half of the game numbers so much better than the first half?
Because he's amazing
Because
at
they were
football.
leading. They were ahead.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have to throw to A.J. Brown in the fourth quarter. They handed it off to the workhorse.
Totally.
So,
Totally.
That's why you've got to kind of sometimes say, okay, the numbers are good, but where'd they come from?
Oh yeah, and it's hard to contextualize large stats. It's hard to fully contextualize 3,647 passing yards because you'll never have the full story. So
Yeah.
but I agree with you.
When you
I think
couple
that's
that
accurate.
with, they only, at the midway point in the season, we were both like, whoa, the NFC North is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, which one of these teams is not going to the playoffs? Well, we know.
Yeah.
Because
And
about that time, they went.
The Bears
so it wasn't
the Bears have so many problems too. It's just it's a series of issues that extends so much further than the offensive play too. Which hopefully their coaching overhaul will fix. We'll see. I don't have a lot of faith.
I'll take one little victory lap where I accidentally stepped in it. That if you recall, when we were talking about what about the Lions and the Packers, and I told you that I don't know, that's going to be a tough division this year because you also have the Vikings who are good.
I remember this.
And-
I remember
remember
this.
this?
Oh yeah.
And then after we finished the pod, I looked up and went, oh crap, their record was worse than I thought last year, and yet this weekend they had a chance to be the number 1 seed. So
How about Sam Darnold, man?
I mean, that's got to be the comeback
Wow.
player of the year, right?
Oh yeah, easily.
100%.
Easily.
Yeah, that guy is about to get a bag next year.
Oh yeah.
So another little victory lap I'll take, maybe prematurely, is Bo Nix.
Oh yeah. This
told-
is what I was waiting for. The Bo Nix take. This is what I was
I
anticipating.
said, and admittedly, I didn't want to put too much on rookie year because I wasn't even sure how much he was going to play. I said, long term, the only quarterback that will be any good long term is going to be Bo Nix. So that's a mixed bag on that take right there. But
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
my defense was that Jaden Daniels is supremely talented, but he's RG3 and he's going to be hampered by injuries over his career.
Yeah.
This season hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it doesn't. I said that Michael Penix Jr. is probably going to have the same issues. He's amazing talent. He can throw a dot, but those ACLs, I'm not sure that they're going to last. And then both of us said that we like JJ McCarthy. I said he was kind of an X factor. We don't know. You said he was good. We'll have to wait and see on him.
Yep.
But one thing that we both agreed on, we talked about, who's going to be in the Super Bowl? And both of us had a hard time not putting people in the mix as the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Lions, and the 49ers in the NFC. And both of us said, I don't know about CMC. He's going to get injured. So I don't think either one of us wants to spike the ball on being right that this guy was, on the IR all year.
And I
But
drafted him in fantasy too, so that was a little bit
my
that wasn't
my
great.
buddy drafted him first round, and he's like, since we do a snake draft, he had the number one overall pick. He took him. He says essentially, my first pick was the 20th pick,
Yeah,
which is right.
yeah.
But I'm going to give you the props here. You were right on the Niners because the statement you made, and I think I can quote this was, I don't think I can trust Brock Purdy. There you have it. You
I
nailed
stand by
that one.
that. I stand
Yeah.
by that.
Other early season predictions. You said, do you remember who you said your Super Bowl prediction was?
Baltimore and Philadelphia, I
You
think.
did.
Yep.
How do you feel about that pick?
I feel great. I feel great. I'm worried about Detroit. I think if someone put a gun to my head right now and asked me who's going to win the Super Bowl, I would pick Detroit. Um,
Really?
I am so well. There's a grain of salt to that. I don't think I've ever been as impressed with an offense as an entire unit as I am with the Detroit offense. But that defense is so injured.
They're
I mean,
riddled with injuries.
that defense has no. I mean, they have safeties playing quarterbacks. So I think the Philadelphia prediction is still entirely possible. I think if Jalen Hurts has a good game, the Eagles can beat the Lions. Um, the Ravens is a little more interesting. I'm still of the opinion that I don't think Kansas City gets out of the AFC. I just don't think. I don't know if. Well, first of all, Mahomes has been hurt. It was already not his best season. Obviously, the defense is amazing, but I don't know if he beats Buffalo again, especially if he's limping. And I still think Baltimore comes out of the AFC. My reasoning being, I think this is Lamar's sort of do or die year in the playoffs. I think this year is when, look, you've had 4 or 5 straight incredible regular seasons where you've arguably been the MVP every single year. It's time to get it done in January. I think he knows that. I think he's finally got enough consistent, healthy talent where I know they don't have the best record. I know they were 10-6 or something like that, 10-5. I think Baltimore locks in. I think they beat. I believe they have the Steelers in the first round. I think they beat the Steelers easily. They would have Buffalo or Denver. I think Buffalo's coming out of that matchup, and I think they beat Buffalo in a close one. I still have them in the Super Bowl. I have them winning the Super Bowl. I need it because I've been a Lamar supporter for years, and I really need him to make me look good. And I think he
This
does it.
two-time
I think it's the
MVP,
year.
maybe 3-time MVP. You need him to
I think it's the
come
year.
through.
I think he does it. I think Derrick Henry has one last vintage stretch of games. I think Lamar finds his passing ability in the playoffs finally. He's looked amazing throwing the ball all year. He hasn't had a single down stretch of throwing all season. I think he does it. I think he finally gets it done.
Well, the couple things we said at the beginning of the year was I'm going to take a victory lap when I made the comment that the Super Bowl loser oftentimes misses the playoffs. So I'll take a point on that one.
Oh, yep. Yep.
But that's just like stats. That's just history, and can never see it coming, and yet here we are.
Yep.
The other one that I'll take a victory lap on was, do you remember who I said my dark horse was? You asked who my dark horse for the Super Bowl was. Do you remember?
Oh,
who
I
said?
do. And I'm happy about this one too, man. How about the Chargers?
The Chargers.
I
I
love
don't
it.
think they're going to make the Super Bowl, but I
I
picked a
love it.
dark horse, and right now they're a
Yeah.
dark horse.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they're going to win. I think they're going to win first round too. By the way,
You think they beat Houston?
I do. I do. I don't think that Houston can hang with them.
Man,
You
Justin
realize the
Herbert. I
Chargers have the
love
number
Justin
one
Herbert.
defense in the league.
Yeah.
Chargers have an amazing defense.
Where did that come
You
from?
said you didn't like the Chargers because they got
Yeah.
rid of their wide receivers,
Yeah. I mean,
and yet here they are.
look, someone else I drafted in fantasy was Ladd McConkey, and that guy can play. That dude gets so many points. in
As
fantasy
Keegan
football.
Michael, did you see what Keegan Michael Key? He went on the Rich Eisen show. They asked him to be the substitute teacher and to read off some names, and they gave
No.
him names of current players. Oh, this is beautiful. But they gave him Lad McConkey's one, and so now on that show they only refer to him as Ladidi McConkey.
Oh, that's funny. That's pretty good.
That's your boy,
That's pretty good.
Ladidi,
Yeah,
Ladidi
he's
McConkey.
he's been great. I've been of the opinion that Justin Herbert is a top 3 quarterback in the league since his rookie year, and he's played great. I love that he's in the playoffs. Jim Harbaugh just wins wherever he goes, I guess. I mean, guy
That's
just knows how to
and that's
win.
what I said. I said every place he goes, first year, he pluses the team up.
Yeah,
They move up.
you were
Rich
right. Yeah,
Eisen is a big Michigan guy, and I remember him talking. He's going, well, he goes everywhere. He goes 7 more wins, right? Well, they put up 5 more wins than they did the last year,
yeah,
and they got rid of their receivers. This is
yeah.
crazy.
But the,
So
the the defense being as good as it is such a huge surprise because part of the reason the Chargers could never get it done in the late season playoffs. I mean, they blew a 27-point lead to the Jaguars because the defense just forgot how to play football, and
they
they've
just couldn't
consistently
do
had
it.
a bottom 5, bottom 10 defense. So the turnaround for the defense is unbelievable. It's
It's
crazy.
awesome.
I
He's
love it.
amazing. Um, in our second episode, something that you said, I'm going to ask you about 2 things. Number one, we'll
Oh
go
boy.
with you said that the Saints have the best secondary in the league, and it's not even close.
Well,
How do you feel about that?
I'll revise it slightly to when healthy and actually playing for the Saints. Um, it's maybe a top 10 secondary. Um, yeah, I mean, look, in my defense, after week 2, I thought the Saints were going to win the Super Bowl. So, um, I mean, Paulson Adebo kind of fell off a cliff. Alontae Taylor played well. He had a great year. Kool-Aid McKinstry had a pretty solid rookie year. We traded my favorite player in NFL history, so he's no longer in the secondary. He's playing over with Jaden in Washington now. So as it stands right now, I'd say the Saints kind of have a pretty stinky secondary. But at the time, week 2 New Orleans, man. When my future kids ask me about week 2 2024 New Orleans, I'm gonna get a tear in my eye and then start reminiscing.
Now,
Um,
I will tell you this. I went and I looked through some numbers here, and
uh-huh.
the screen I had up before. Oh, this is it. This is the one. So, overall total defense. Um, the way that they organize this is by yards. Eagles
Uh-huh.
are number one. They're the only team under 300 yards a game, and they're
Wow.
at 278. So that's a lot. That's a lot lower.
Wow.
But and then they include touchdowns allowed. And so if you go by that, that's one metric. But I don't think that's the best metric. And in that one there, if you're just going by yards allowed, the Saints were 30th out of 32 teams at 379.9 and 43 touchdowns allowed. So that's not great, but that's overall defense. You go to passing defense, which is not just the secondary, but the secondary is a major part of it. Then they've done a lot better, right? And so where did they go? I saw them here. I thought they were 10.
Oh, that's not terrible.
Shoot, I'm not seeing them. Anyway, they're much better that way. Oh, sorry, they're 27th. But what did stand out to me was that they only gave up 19 passing touchdowns.
Okay.
When there's a lot of teams in here, let's say in the top 10 passing defense, you've got 22, 27, 25, 18, 25, 31, 24, 30, 23, right? So they're better on
Right.
passing touchdowns allowed
Right.
than a lot of other teams out there. In fact, they're the
I mean, I'll take it.
fourth fewest passing touchdowns allowed.
I mean, I'll take it, I suppose.
The big problem is their rush defense. Their rush
It's
defense is
terrible. It's
31.
terrible. It's
They're
terrible.
only ahead of the Panthers.
Oh,
But
that's a great team to be ahead of.
yeah, that's at least you're ahead of them.
Woo!
You're right. Injuries play a role, but it was an interesting statement to say it's not even close. But
Well,
football's a team sport, right? I mean,
I'm totally
you
not
can't do it alone.
biased.
You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
But I was impressed at least by the passing touchdown. Okay, they did well there.
Yeah.
The other one that you said on episode 2 was the U of A has a better basketball team than last year.
So this I'm prepared for because every time I call my folks back home, we talk about this. Um, I stand by that, and here's why.
Wow.
Here's why.
Okay.
The whole thing I've been saying they had a better team, but I have also been saying this, that the first year in the Big 12 also came with a harder yes, we're going to have a harder conference schedule being in the Big 12, but if you compare the schedule to last year, we also have a harder non-conference schedule.
That's true.
And that was done intentionally. That was I am of the opinion that was an intentional decision to sort of work out the kinks and the bad losses and the bad team play and get it out of the way before the tournament. Because too many years in a row has the U of A coasted through the first 3 months of the season with no adversity, one loss, two losses, one or two ranked in the country, on the top of the world, and then it comes tournament play and look at Middle Tennessee University whooping our butts, right? So
Princeton.
I think I think that the losing early, I think the losing close games early because there's been some close games, blowing some leads, losing close games, through conference play we're undefeated. Um, I like that it's early because the team is learning how to lose at the beginning of the season, and our true freshman, our 5-star freshman recruit has looked unbelievable. He in our first conference game against TCU, he shot perfectly from the field.
He did tonight
Um,
too.
Yep, that's 2 games in a row.
He's 8 for 8
Um, Caleb Love
on the road trip.
Caleb Love has been shockingly consistent, which is not a word I thought I would ever assign to Caleb Love ever. Um, and what I really think it is from watching the games is I think we just need slightly better wing play from like Lewis, um, and just sort of that perimeter play both on offense and on defense. And I like that the games are being lost early. I still think it's a more talented team than last year, and because of that, I think it goes further in the tournament. That's
Well,
my
I
that's
mean,
my opinion.
to be fair, KJ Lewis has not been great this year. I mean, he's had a
No.
little bit of a sophomore slump, you might call it.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll take a little victory lap here because when we talked about this, the one thing I said, main thing I said was we're going to miss Umar Ballo.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's the biggest problem is we're used to having this guy last 3 years interior presence offensively and defensively. The guy was good for 20 and 10 a game most of the time, at least doubles a game. And you couldn't drive on him, right? You get in there, he'd swat you. He'd put it into the third row. And so that is not, I mean, Visar, Krivas, I mean, the guys that transferred in Waka, Townsend, nobody can stop anybody in the middle. And that I mean, I didn't watch the game tonight. I can't tell you if that's what we did or not. But we're missing Umar Ballo, and that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. The other one is that right now I said I'd rather have Love over Josen Sannon, and we'll see if that by the end of the season if that holds up. Right now, their numbers aren't all that different, other than Sannon has better percentages.
Shannon's been balling. I went to an ASU game a couple weeks ago, and he was balling out.
He did, but those weeks where he had those big numbers were all the cupcake
This is
teams.
true.
So
This
I'm
is true.
interested to see how he does in conference play. I know he didn't play against Colorado. He's still injured. He won't play tomorrow against Kansas in Kansas. But Kansas, number I think 6 in the nation, they
Hmm.
lost last week at home, 62-61 to West Virginia, who U
True.
of A beat tonight.
True. Yeah.
So, anyway, we'll see how that works. But and I may have to eat my hat on the phrase I said was, "We will be no lower than a 4 seed."
Well, I mean
Uh,
that's still
I
feasible.
don't I don't think that one's going to age well.
I mean, if
We'll
we
see.
if we dominate conference play, which I don't think is completely out of the question. I mean,
Right
it's
now, I'd be happy with an 8 seed.
I'd agree. I'd agree.
I don't think we're going to be. I think we're going to be lower than that. All
Part of me
right.
wants, part of me wonders if a lower seed, like a higher number, is good because it takes the sort of pressure and sort of mindset that comes with, oh well, we're a top three seed, we, whatever. And that sort of playing from a perspective of a chip on our shoulder rather than we're better than everyone.
Seems like it works for like Xavier and those guys, but
Yeah. We'll see.
okay. So in our third episode, you had me play start bench cut,
I remember this.
and yes, and so when it came to quarterbacks, we both started Lamar. I benched Hurts and I cut Burrow, and you did the opposite. How do you feel about that right now?
I would say that's 100% accurate. I would stand by that. I would stand by my answer like completely.
Okay.
And
So Burrow,
I can
here, here,
kind of maybe see the argument for starting Burrow, but I don't I wouldn't, but I can see the argument.
number one quarterback.
Yeah, but you want to talk about padding stats, look no further
You know what? I'm
than
not
Big
sure about
JB.
that because he had a lot of close losses too. Like they had that comeback. They tied the game against the Ravens, except that they went for two instead of the PAT, which would have officially tied the game. And they lost. So there's times where I mean, I think that more than padding stats is I think they were trailing. So it's the opposite of the
Maybe,
Saquon effect. I think
maybe.
he had to throw. He didn't have much of a choice. So had he if he had a bigger lead, he might look more like Pat Mahomes, where he's handing the ball off late. Didn't have to
Yeah.
throw.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's had a great year. I don't know. To me, it's almost like the opposite of what we were talking about earlier. Like, I watch him. Like, I watch Joe Burrow, and his receivers do so much of the work, like, for a lot of his stats. Like,
Yak.
maybe I could get 43 touchdowns and 9 interceptions if I was throwing a 5 yard out to Jamar Chase every play. Like, it's just, I'm not, he doesn't impress me like Lamar impressed me. Like, Lamar does things that I watch and I say, wow. Joe Burrow does things and I go, I mean, okay. You know what
Well,
I mean?
so your reason for cutting Hurts was that he's led the league in turnovers, and so just for fun, I looked
He's
up to
been
see
much better this year.
what the turnovers were. So interceptions, and interceptions not always on the quarterback. Sometimes it's off somebody's hands, but Lamar, how many turnover interceptions Lamar had?
Lamar had I single digits for sure. I want to say five,
Four.
4 picks. Wow, that's my guy.
Burrow had nine, and Hurts had five.
Yeah,
But I
shout out
said
Jalen
let's look
Hurts.
up fumbles too, right? Especially with running quarterbacks.
Hmm.
Lamar had 10 fumbles, Burrow had 11, and
Wow,
Hurts had nine.
wow, they're fumbling.
So
That's wild.
Lamar and Hurts had the exact same number of turnovers at 14, and they're almost the exact same breakdown. And then Burrow had 20
Wow.
combined. So
Yeah,
that's that. We both had the exact same order when it came to start Jefferson, bench Tyreek, and cut CD. How do you feel about that?
I would probably switch CD and Tyreek now.
I think you should.
Um, after the bit of the diva season Tyreek Hill has had.
Oh well, he's
Um,
also quit on his team. And did you see that he changed his picture to put his face on Antonio Brown's shirtless body at when he freaked
yeah,
out at
that's
Meadowlands?
yeah. I mean, I don't know why you would do that, dude. Like
That's amazing.
why would you make yourself that image? I don't know.
Well,
Whatever.
that's a team that really went to bat for him.
Yeah,
Like they
yeah,
traded a first, a second, a fourth, and a sixth just to get him, which is way too much. Then they reset the market with a $120 million contract for him. And then even when he got harassed by the cops, like they had his back. Like I mean, it's kind of messed up the way he's treating the team. But
and it's not even like the team has done him wrong. I mean, Tua was just
no,
injured.
no, they've done
Like
everything right.
how is it the Dolphins' fault that Tua loves leading with his head on slides? Like that's
Well,
not their fault.
that's yes. No, I mean Tua should not. Anyway,
Yeah.
but here's the thing: all three of those guys, you could argue. I mean, look, but you go, well, he didn't have Tua throwing to him. Okay, who did CD have throwing to him?
The worst
Cooper
quarterback
Rush
I've
half
ever
the
watched.
season. Yeah, but it's not even Dak most of the season. It's been Cooper Rush. He's got a backup, and then
Yep.
and he caught 200 more yards than Tyreek in the same number of touchdowns.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
Jefferson, you
yeah.
want to tell me Jefferson had it easy? Remind me who his quarterback is.
Big Sam, baby. MVP Darnold. Sam MVP Darnold.
The guy whose career was over in Carolina. So,
Yeah, I'm still taking Jefferson without question.
but but I'm just saying that we can't go. Well, Tyreek had an excuse. He didn't have his quarterback.
True, true.
I mean, none of them had Mahomes or Allen or whoever. All right,
True.
and the last one was, and you win this one big time. Uh, JJ or sorry, TJ Watt,
Miles Garrett,
Max
Max
Crosby, or
Crosby.
yep, and Miles Garrett. And so that's the order I went in. Start TJ, bench
I
Crosby,
remember who you cut.
and cut the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, not sure about
So,
that one.
yeah, you went the other way with it. You went Miles, TJ, and then Crosby. And so what I did is I looked up to see sacks and tackles for loss.
Uh-huh. Yeah, what'd you find? What'd you find?
TJ was 11 and a half and 19. Crosby was 7.5 and 17. And Miles Garrett was 14 and 22.
Yeah.
So we can put a little, we can throw a little cold water on the
It's all
Mr.
right.
Viggy's right on everything and I'm wrong.
It's okay.
I
It,
think you
it, it
got
has
that
to
one.
happen somewhere. It has
I
to
think
happen
you got that.
somewhere.
Yeah, you combine the composite total of those. He has 36 versus what is it? 30 and a half versus 24 and a half. Like I did that wrong. I
It's
did
okay.
not understand the assignment. Um, let's see. And then midway through the season, we said that the NFC North was the best division. I think that still holds true.
I stand by that.
Um, yeah, I mean, we two of those teams were playing for the number one seed.
And three of them are
Um,
in the playoffs.
yeah.
Yep.
You said that we were not surprised that the Ravens and Bills were good,
Yep.
but we were surprised that the Commanders were good.
Yeah.
And
They look great. That's a playoff team.
I think you said you were surprised they Bo Nix and they're a playoff team.
Yeah. Look at that.
So worked out pretty well that way. I think apparently sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. Just have to be louder when we're right, I guess.
Yeah. I would agree. Weren't even wrong like too aggressively either. I mean, I don't think we said anything like super absurd. Well,
No, no, I think
The Saints secondary take was kind of
that that
unbelievable, but
that that should have probably been the Saints secondary is really good. That probably would have been
I'm inclined
a
to
safer
agree.
take. And I'll still stand by. I think that trading Dak for Caleb Williams would have been good for both teams, but I know I'm probably the only person who'll say that. So I probably have to take an L on that one.
It happens.
All right. So this week, who you have as winners this week in the playoffs?
All right, I've got the bracket up in front of me. So we'll just start top down NFC and then top down AFC.
Sure.
Vikings Rams. I've got the Vikings pretty easily. I don't think old Matt Stafford can get it done anymore.
Okay.
I think his division this year was weak. I know the Seahawks just missed out with 10 games. I don't particularly care. I think Matt Stafford's old. I think their defense stinks. And I think Puka Nakua is really good. But I don't think he's good enough to outgun Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson. So I've got the Vikings there. I think it'll be a 1-2 score game. I'm actually, funnily enough, I think I'm most looking forward to the Commanders-Buccaneers game. And I'm taking the Bucks. I am very, very high on Baker Mayfield. I think he was highway robbed of a Pro Bowl spot. I think he should have gotten the Pro Bowl nod over Jaden Daniels. I noted Jaden Daniels is marketable. I know he's a rookie. I know he's exciting. Baker Mayfield had better stats in literally everything except running. And the passing stats, he was like much better. So I like the Bucks there. I think the offense. I mean, part of it is I don't really know how much I trust. Not that I don't trust Jaden Daniels. I just don't know how much trust I would put in a rookie quarterback in his first playoff game, especially on the road. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of a rookie performance there. I think Tampa takes it, but that game really could go either way. It's possible. Philadelphia and Green Bay. This game will more likely than not be Philadelphia. I'd give them like a probably like an 80-20% nod. And I think that 20% they don't win is if Jordan Love has just a freakish game, which we know he's physically capable of doing. I think that's the only way the Packers win, or if Jordan Love has just an absolute explosion, kind of like he did last playoffs against the Cowboys. I don't think that happens. I think Philadelphia wins. And then in the AFC, I like the Chargers over the Texans. I think C.J. Stroud has been kind of bad this year, and I think that Chargers defense is going to give him nightmares, as well as Justin Herbert finally getting his playoff win. Ravens Steelers. I don't think I need to explain that one. Baltimore wins by 5 touchdowns.
Wow.
And then, well, not five, but multiple scores. And then
Okay. All right. So how many if it's not five?
we'll say two. We'll say it's a 2 touchdown win at
Okay.
least. Like at least. And then I think the Bills beat the Broncos pretty convincingly. I have a hard time betting against Josh Allen. Dude just seems to steamroll everything in front of him at all times. I just have a hard time picking against him. So those are
All
my
right.
those are my predictions.
All right.
What about you?
So I am picking Old Man Stafford.
That's just not going to age well. He's
You know,
old.
it may not. It may not, but the reason why is I watched Minnesota struggle to score.
True,
And they're going
true.
to go on the road. They're going to go out west. They're going to go meet up there. And I think that place is going to be raucous. They are starved
Oh,
to get back into the playoffs.
the
And I
road
think that
game.
it's a road
I
game.
forgot that they're 14 wins on the road. Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So,
crazy.
yeah, this is not the Lions who are undefeated on the road. This is Minnesota who could not score a touchdown. And so
True,
that's why
true.
I'm taking them.
Okay.
So it's one of those it's one of those ones where it's like, man, this team is amazing, and they get to the playoffs, paper tiger, fall right apart, and that's
Yeah,
what I think is going to happen.
I could see that.
Um,
I could see that.
I have got the upset to me is another upset is I got Washington over Tampa, and the reason for that is kind of the opposite of your argument here. So we'll see. We're on opposite sides on both of these here. Is I think that Washington is just too dynamic on offense. I think they're going to go out there. I think Jaden is going to show you why he was the Heisman and why this dude is cool as a cucumber. If he doesn't get hurt and he stays healthy, I think they win a close one. You know, a 3 point game or something like that.
Okay, okay.
Then Philly over Green Bay, and that is going to be a better win than Brazil was. Brazil were slipping and sliding on the turf. I had to laugh because we're all very excited about Saquon Barkley, and we know how the story ends with his regular season, 2,005 yards. But do you remember what the first handoff, his first play as an Eagles? Do you remember what it was?
I don't.
They handed him the ball 7 yards deep. He fell flat on his face.
I mean,
I watched that and I'm like, oh, that is not a good omen for this season. but
worked out okay.
but they slipped and slid all over. That game there was a little crazy. Do you remember the defining thing of that game was the big play? And the reason why is that the soccer stadium has that slick grass.
Yep.
And you noticed if somebody got, I mean, you watched Saquon break one off, I think 75 yards.
Hmm.
He made it because if you could make a guy miss, you're gone. And so both teams had the big play. I do not think this is going to be a big play game. I'm not sure what the weather's going to be in Philly, but it's going to be cold, and that doesn't hurt either team. This is not the old days of Tampa or Miami coming up north.
Yep.
But I think the better team's going to win. I think you're going to see a convincing win. It's going to be like maybe
Okay.
as much as 10 points. It's not going to
Okay.
be a blowout, but I think it's going to be a solid win, never in doubt.
Okay. Keep an eye on Romeo Dobbs. That guy's been electric, except against Philly. So I think if they contain him like they do normally, you guys should be just fine.
Right, right. And as far as I think the Chargers also go on the road and they beat the Texans. I
I
just
agree.
think the Texans have stumbled their way into winning a bad division.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's going to be big or not, but I think they're going to win a smaller victory than the Eagles, but I don't think it's ever going to be in doubt. I think you're going to see right from the beginning, the Chargers are going to punch them right in the mouth of that defense. Um, I've got Baltimore. I don't know about 5 touchdowns, but yeah, 2 touchdowns is probably right. It'd be something like that. I think they're going to run all over them. That's another one. I watched the Steelers just they couldn't figure it out this week, man. I mean, they
Their
got
offense
embarrassed
sucks.
by Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to go out and there's going to be body blow after body blow after body blow with that running attack. And then you're going to watch Lamar Jackson. I mean, the guy threw a no look touchdown. That was nuts.
Yeah.
Like this dude's coming
He's
in.
unbelievable.
He's going to high step his way out of that one. And Bills, yeah, convincingly might be the right term for that. I think that they've proven who they are. I don't. The only thing that made me question it was how good the Broncos looked this week, and but then again,
Well, well,
I know they weren't playing a real team, but it's still you go whoa.
yeah,
So I think
yeah,
if they can execute like that, they'll make a game of it. But
sure, sure,
but the Bills are going to win by 1 to 2 touchdowns, something like
sure.
that.
Yeah.
So we agree on most of them, but I think the first two there are going to
We'll
be
have to see how old man Stafford does.
old Stats Patford. We'll see how it goes.
Old
And I
stat
don't know if it's going to
Padford.
be him that wins the game for him, but I just feel like they got hot late in the season, man. Like they looked bad early. And
Yeah,
it was
true.
one of these, all right, well, San Francisco, it's their division. Oh, nope, it's the Cardinals. And guess who came out on top? LA.
True.
So they got hot at the right time. They got a great coach, good front office. So I'll go with them.
Sure.
Um, do we want to say anything beyond this week on the playoffs, or just leave it at that?
I don't think so. I think we can address week 2 of the playoffs when it gets here. I don't want to predict too far in the future because then one of those teams loses and all of a sudden we got to start over. So I think
Busted
one
your
round at a
bracket.
time.
I think
So
that's good. I think that Detroit winning this week was big because
I agree.
nobody needed a break more than them.
True.
So we'll see. But I tell you what, they've got a running attack. Boy, Jameer Gibbs
That guy's unreal.
and Jared Goff, like that dude's throwing dimes. Just pretty, pretty.
Again, I
So
wouldn't be surprised if they win the Super Bowl. That would not surprise me.
this weekend we watched Jared Goff and Carson Wentz play.
It's pretty cool.
And pretty obvious which one of them is definitely the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. Yeah. I
The
agree.
other guy is retiring.
Yes, he is.
So I've
Carson
got
Poo
some
Poo
things
Wentz.
I could say about the offseason or end of the year or whatever, but let's save that. We got playoff stuff. I think we'll focus on that.
Sounds good.
Tyreek is quitting on his team. We'll see. There's gonna be a bunch of other stuff. We're gonna see some other coaches fired. All right, one last one then. Do you have any prediction on somebody who's going to get fired? Surprisingly, we already saw one with New England. That was a little bit of a surprise after
Um,
1 year.
I don't know about surprisingly. I don't really see there being any drastic coaching changes that we can't at least somewhat predict. Um,
Any playoff teams going to have a coaching change?
Looking through it, I really don't think so. I think, funnily enough, I think the team at the biggest risk for a coaching change, and this is a crazy thing to say, anytime in the past couple decades, but I mean, I wouldn't be completely surprised if Mike Tomlin was out of Pittsburgh
I
here
I heard
soon.
I heard Rich Eisen's co-host Brockman his overreaction Monday on a Tuesday. He suggested, "Hey, do you think somebody should be trading for Mike Tomlin?"
Mike Tomlin, yeah.
But that's an
I mean,
interesting one. And he proposed the Bears.
oh, that's interesting.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
I mean, I get the whole winning season streak thing is cool, but at what point do you look at that and be like, I mean, Mike, look, we appreciate the however many years straight of winning seasons. How many of those were you one game over 500, and how many of those did you have playoff success? Because I'll tell you what, the answer to the first question is a lot more than you'd expect, and the answer to the second question is not as much as you'd want.
Yeah.
So
All
it's an
right.
interesting question.
I think we have beaten all these horses dead. Do you have any games you want to knock out, or have we wrapped it up here and we need to go?
I don't think so. I think going over the past takes was kind of served as our game. That was fun, and I think that took up more time than I expected. So
It did take a little more time than I thought, but well, we'll see if anybody watches. All right. Well then, let's we'll see if we can get back here next week.
sounds good.
One other thing that we have to maybe eat a little crow on was, um, I only recently this week published our our episode 4, which was from October 22nd. So
Nice,
that hasn't
nice.
been out there that long.
It's good
Anybody who
stuff.
does follow, they'll watch that back to back with this.
Cool.
And we opened and closed that one by saying, all right, we are going to get the next episode out much faster than this last one. And you
I
said, that's
remember
it,
this.
I'm locked in. And we're like, yay, we're going to do it.
I remember
Well,
this.
the fact that I produced that this week, if I produce this one right away, then we can say that those are close together.
Oh yeah, we did
Even
lock
if
in.
October 22nd and January 7th are not.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
There you go. That's how you manipulate numbers right there.
Perfect.
All right. Well, like and subscribe. Go Eagles.
Take care. Don't go Eagles.
See you later.